Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a company that has kind of out of nowhere become the absolute center of the tech universe. We're talking about the engine behind this whole generative AI boom that we're all living through right now. So today, let's break down how NVIDIA got to this point, what their master plan really is, and the almost unbelievable scale of what they see coming next. And we have to start with a number that is just staggering, $46.7 billion. Now, get this, that's not their revenue for a year, that's their revenue for a single quarter, which they just reported this past August. To give you some perspective, that is more money than a lot of iconic companies make in an entire year. So this isn't just a success story, it's a massive, seismic shift in the economy, and it's all being driven by one thing. And that one thing is what their CEO, Jensen Huang, calls the AI race. You see, this huge financial number isn't just about selling a bunch of chips. According to him, this is about building the fundamental infrastructure for an entirely new industrial revolution. Every company, every industry, and now even entire countries are all scrambling to build AI. And this race is what's fueling NVIDIA's incredible momentum. So how on earth did they get to a number that big? Well, the path they took is just as important as the final number, because it's not just about being big, it's about the incredible speed at which they got there. This right here doesn't just show growth, it shows jaw-dropping acceleration. Just look at these numbers, 30 billion, then 44, then nearly $47 billion in 3 back-to-back quarters. And the main engine here, it's their data center business, which made up over 41 billion of that last quarter alone. This isn't just straight-line growth, it's exponential. It's a curve that's going vertical, which begs the question, how is this even possible? Well, to really understand NVIDIA's rise, you first have to understand the fundamental problem that they solved. A problem that was basically putting the brakes on the entire computing industry for years. And the crazy thing is, they saw this coming over a decade ago. This quote, it's from 2013. For decades, Moore's Law was the heartbeat of the tech industry. It basically said that computing power would double every couple of years for the same cost. But by the early 2010s, that engine was seriously starting to sputter. And this is where the path diverges. On one side, you had traditional CPUs, the brains in most of our computers, where performance gains just slowed to a crawl. On the other side, you had a totally different approach, accelerated computing using GPUs, which kept doubling in performance year after year. This created a huge bottleneck. The world's biggest problems, things like drug discovery, climate science, and especially AI, were getting way too complex for traditional computers to solve efficiently. They had hit a wall. So NVIDIA didn't just spot the problem, they spent more than a decade building the solution from the ground up. And in doing so, they turned an industry-wide crisis into their single greatest opportunity. So what is this accelerated computing? Well, the most important thing to get is that it's not just about building a faster chip. It's a complete reinvention of how computers work, from the hardware all the way up to the software. It's about using specialized processors, like their GPUs, to basically turbocharge the hardest parts of a problem, letting the main CPU just handle the general day-to-day stuff. And here's where NVIDIA played their masterstroke. They built the entire ecosystem themselves. Down at the bottom, you've got the specialized chips. In the middle, there's their CUDA software, which is the magic layer that lets developers actually use all that power. And then on top, they have hundreds of pre-built software libraries that give developers a massive head start. They essentially became a one-stop shop for anyone serious about AI. And the result of this whole full-stack approach, a 1 million-fold speed-up in computing power over the last 10 years. That number just completely blows Moore's Law out of the water. This is the technical leap forward that made the entire generative AI explosion we're seeing right now possible. Okay, so that brings us right back to today. All of this incredible computing power isn't just for research projects in a lab anymore. No, it's being deployed at a planetary scale to build something entirely new, AI factories. Like Jensen Huang says, this is a new industrial revolution. And just like the first one had factories that turned raw materials like cotton into valuable goods, this new revolution, it has its own kind of factory. And this analogy is just perfect. Think about it. The raw material going into these new factories isn't steel or oil, it's data. That data gets processed and refined inside the factory, and the product that comes out the other side is intelligence, which is often measured in what we call tokens. Those tokens are then used to generate text, images, or code, things that become monetizable products. And who's building all the machines inside these factories? NVIDIA. And this is leading to a massive shift in how we think about infrastructure. We're talking about a completely new type of data center. This is becoming so critical that entire countries are now treating them as essential national infrastructure. They're building what they call sovereign AI to process their own data and generate their own intelligence. In fact, NVIDIA's on track to do over $20 billion in revenue from sovereign AI projects this year alone. So all of this leads to the final massive question: where does it go from here? If this really is a new industrial revolution, then we have to be in just the very, very beginning. And just look at the pace of innovation here. NVIDIA is not resting on its laurels. They've committed to a relentless one-year rhythm. They're releasing a new, much more powerful generation of their entire platform every single year. From Hopper this year to Blackwell next year to the upcoming Rubin platform, they're trying to make their own technology obsolete before anyone else even has a chance to catch up. And this is the prize they are chasing. The company estimates that the total market for just building out this global AI infrastructure is going to be somewhere between $3 to $4 trillion by the end of the decade. They're not just trying to sell the parts, they are aiming to build a huge portion of the entire factory. Which leaves us with this one last thought. So far, we've seen this technology generate chatbots and create some pretty amazing images. But as this AI factory build-out scales to trillions of dollars, powering everything from discovering new drugs to robotics to entirely new industries we haven't even conceived of yet, what comes next? What will it build? That right there is the trillion-dollar question.